Good morning, everyone. Welcome to EuCNC Antwerp edition. It's a pleasure, it's a true pleasure to have you here. This is the event that you make it happen. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing with us. Thanks for innovating together. It's going to be, well, it's already been an amazing week. So we are going to start with the opening session today, where we have the presence of our esteemed guests that they are going to be addressing the welcome to all of us and officially opening the Antwerp edition. So, as I usually say to all of you informally, I have the pleasure to be sharing with you for so many years in this community, in our community. I always say to you that EuCNC, it's a celebration. And certainly, it's a celebration. We celebrate innovation, we celebrate research, we celebrate progress, we push our society further, and we do it together. The different stakeholders come together. We, academics, research, industry, government, we come together in a shared space where we create together. It's truly a pleasure to be hosting this event in Antwerp and to be here with you today. So, welcome to Antwerp. Take some time to go through Antwerp. I want to thank our patrons, our sponsors, because their support is really important. As you all know, this conference is a zero-profit conference. So every single euro that comes in should be spent in your comfort, should be spent in the conference, especially in the comfort of the attendees. And our patrons, our sponsors, they make it happen. They improve the experience. So thanks to all of our sponsors who are, every year they are supporting us. Thank you, because your support enhances this community. So let me walk you quickly through the technical program. As every single year, we have gathered the most relevant research happening in Europe, and not only in Europe. As you all are aware, this is an international conference where our colleagues from different other countries and continents, they also come here to share with us and to exchange our approaches. So the next 2 days and a half, we'll be having, this is divided in blocks. So we're going to have the main blocks, which are going to be here. So they are going to, the plenaries. We are going to be all together in plenaries. And in the blocks that they are called oral sessions, we are going to be having parallel sessions. Yesterday, as we kick off yesterday, we already had the workshops and had the tutorials. So today, tomorrow, and Thursday, half day, we are going to be having a mix of main plenaries where we gather together for the keynotes, for the panels, for the debates, and then we split apart in parallel sessions in the blocks of oral sessions. We already have we also have a poster session that's going to be tomorrow. And yesterday we had our really nice welcome evening where we share some laughs together. And we will be having the gala dinner, the banquet, on Wednesday evening. We have 5 keynotes. We have prestigious people that's going to share with us their insights. And we have gathered in the industry. So we have 2 industry keynotes. We have 2 academic keynotes. And we have also the pleasure to have 1 keynote coming from the government, from the regulator. So all stakeholders are present here, from keynotes to oral sessions during these 3 days. Also, we have convened sessions. We have 4 convened sessions that are going to be in the main plenaries, gathering all of us together, addressing, of course, relevant topics that push our way to do science together. We have also panels where we are having the presence again of all stakeholders, industry, government, academia, that we sit together and we discuss how to progress together. Yesterday we had workshops. We held 12 workshops out of 27 submissions. By the way, Peter later, he will be giving us some statistics, but let me tell you that this is the most EuCNC edition. What do I mean by that? It's the most attended. It's the most with the one that had the most submissions on regular papers, most submissions on workshops, special sessions. So people, colleagues, truly wanted to share with us and come to Antwerp to be all of us together. So we had yesterday 12 workshops out of 27 submissions. We had 2 tutorials out of 13 submissions. We are going to be having today and the next upcoming 2 days and a half, 13 special sessions out of 23 submissions. These special sessions are going to be in the blocks that I said that they were going to be parallel, called oral sessions in the main program. And regarding the regular papers, we had yet again the most submitted, if you allow me to say that, submitting edition. So we received 291 submissions. Out of them, we accepted 137. And the threshold, in a scale of 5, it was 3.5 and above. What does that mean? It means that truly high-quality papers, research, high-quality content has been accepted, and we are going to be discussing and sharing this quality of content in this quality of conference. Regarding the submissions, authors from 52 different countries have submitted their work in order to be accepted and presented here. You can see the top 10 there: Germany, Spain, Finland, Greece, etc., etc. And other countries as Japan, Korea, Nigeria, Qatar, Ethiopia, USA, Indonesia. So we have attracted all over the world research colleagues to be together during this couple of days. We have 51 poster papers. You are invited to visit them. They are already being exposed. But there's going to be a proper session, as you have seen in one of my first slides. And we have 58 exhibitors that for sure you have already seen their exhibition booths in the entrance. We are going to be celebrating, I like that word. This is a celebration of innovation, but we are going to be celebrating Best Paper Awards, Best student papers, Best Paper on Signal Processing, Best Student Papers in Signal Processing, Best Booth, and this year we are introducing the Best Social Media Presence Award. What does that mean? Please, share your photos, share your experience with the hashtag EuCNC or the hashtag 6G Summit. And we are going to be, the awards committee is going to be selecting the most innovative, fun posts, presents, and we will be awarding an award in the gala dinner. So during the gala dinner, all these all these awards are going to be given. Finally, I want to give a big thanks to all of you, to the steering committee for guiding us, for walking with us through this process of organizing the event. To be honest, it's basically 2 years of a process to have you here today. The technical programming committee, track chairs, workshop chairs, all chairs that they have invested their voluntary time for so long. It has been a year of hard work in the TPC. Thank you guys for working with us to have this this opportunity to serve our community. To the organizing committee, endless discussions to improve the experience of you guys today. The awards committee, the volunteers, they are wearing a blue t-shirt, you're gonna see them. Thanks for helping us in the day-to-day operations. And my last thank you, because you make this conference. Thanks for coming here, thanks for sharing with us. So, just enjoy Antwerp, enjoy EuCNC, share, and the word that I love, celebrate. Let's celebrate together that we can be together. It's no more COVID days, and let's celebrate science, innovation together. So now I will proceed, given the floor. Sorry. There's something happened with the slides. Yes, thank you. So I will proceed giving the floor to Mr. Pearse, who's the director of the Future Networks in the DigiConnect Directorate at the European Commission. Pearse, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Johann, for that, and thank you for all the work that you've done as co-chair. I too would like to start by saying thank you. I would, of course, like to thank all of the organisers and sponsors. I'd particularly like to thank the City of Antwerp for hosting us, and the City Council. But I'd like to particularly thank imec for all the work done in preparation for this conference, which is very important. There's always some confusion about the start of the conference, and I'm saying this not this year is particularly confused, but every year, because they try to get us people who just want to make speeches out of the way, so that you, the audience, can then hear the real material. And there's the 5 keynotes that are coming on technical subjects in the course of the day, which I too will be very interested in seeing. So that I will just, if you will bear with me for a few moments, I would like to present to you just the policy framework around the work that we do in the European Commission on behalf of the European Union with our stakeholders, academia, but particularly industry, in order to drive forward our technological sovereignty, our competitiveness, and our productivity through the use of advanced technologies, which is all the more important in the geopolitical environment that we face, and where there are a number of changes which do impact on the work that you are doing, on the results that we want to see coming out of the work on 6G particularly, but on communications and computing technologies in general. So let me just frame some of that for you. This is very much not Antwerp, but the Brussels bubble view, which you can hopefully impact positively on. And I will speak a bit as to how this impacts directly on the work that is being discussed over the next couple of days, because we're in a transition year. We have the elections next weekend here in Europe, all member states. From Thursday through Sunday, there will be elections for the European Parliament. And that has a direct impact on the appointment of a new European Commission, which is, as you know, is the policy and executive body of the European Union, which will allow us, working with the ministers in the Council, but also with the members of Parliament, to identify a strategic agenda for the next 5 years, more and more of which will be focused on digital technologies, because those technologies have now clearly become, it's already a fact, a driver for the European economy. And in the context of those developments, we have some strategic questions that are already posed now. Unfinished business, new challenges or existing challenges that may have to be readdressed, a lot of which have an impact on technology policy, but of course a lot of which are shaped by technological developments, and where, and this is our true belief, the technologies that you are working on can play a huge role in resolving those challenges. The European Green Deal has, by all accounts, not been the greatest success over the last 5 years. We still have major issues concerning sustainability, including, of course, the energy efficiency of all of the digital technologies across the value chain. There are measures specifically on telecoms networks, for example, where we've undertaken to, with industry and with academia, draw up a code of conduct, but that is work that is done in every segment, but we have to join up, we have to have more joined up thinking with regard to sustainability challenges. Cybersecurity has become and will remain a major preoccupation of this and the next Commission. There we've had the 5G toolbox, which was actually quite traumatic for the technology sector as a whole. But the sector that you're working on, 5G, advanced 5G, 6G, is again at the focus of these cybersecurity concerns, the steps that we take. And then we have recently launched what we call the connectivity package, which I'll refer to, which already sets some of the agenda for the next 5 years. So if we look at now I have to go back, I've already jumped. If we look at the cybersecurity then, first of all, that is an area where we've had the toolbox, which, as I said, was quite traumatic, but where indeed we had developments that were put in place in response to perceived challenges, but also to further strengthen EU cybersecurity. We then, 3 years later, reported on the implementation of the toolbox, and there we identified certain risks, that there was an increasing, or rather, a continued dependency on high-risk suppliers, which not only challenged the security of the networks, but therefore all of the economic systems and sectors that 5G was essentially providing to. And the Commission stated clearly its concerns, to the extent that almost at the same time we issued a more general communication on economic security, which of course is very much in the geopolitical context. But there again, apart from the risk of weaponization of technology, and the internet, by the way, and internet governance, we had to face up to specific risks on security, technology leakage, data leakage, and espionage. And that is why we had a much greater focus on high-risk vendors, and even then started addressing issues such as the participation of high-risk vendors in research and other spending programs. So that was a key issue which is far from resolved, and which will be a major policy or regulatory framing to the work that we do on 6G, but also to compute and connectivity technologies as a whole. We then have, in February of this year, put forward a white paper, which is really to bring together a more strategic view as to how do we deal with Europe's digital infrastructure needs. And we also had a recommendation on submarine cables, which I will deal with shortly. Now, the initiative also has a long section on the internal market and telecoms regulation, which I don't intend to go into, but which will again affect the market to which many of the products that are developed over the years by this community then come to fruition for actual deployment, and how that is then used by telcos is a matter of some concern. Very quickly though, this is an attempt to depict graphically the current situation with regard to the various components of an advanced digital society, but where you do not have the high speeds, reliability and low latency that we want. You have insufficient encryption and therefore weaknesses in security. And of course you have a lack of exploitation of digital means to really gain the full benefits, whether it's in transport, smart cities, energy grids and so on. And then you simply have problems with coverage. Now of course, we are great bureaucrats and great thinkers, but we're not very good graphic designers. So lots of other people have envisaged this much better than we have. But this is our attempt to depict our understanding of what the technology can offer us, what is possible, but also what is needed to have advanced converged connectivity and compute technologies in Europe, and those that are actually provided to a large extent or to a significant extent by European companies, by the large equipment manufacturers, the smaller cloud and software houses who can work together to provide this new vision. Many of those things will be familiar to you and will actually be subjects over the next couple of days. But in the white paper, what we dealt with that digital infrastructure was how do we bring it all together? So we want to look at these connected collaborative computing networks. And then what are the points where the European Union can and should play a role to bring them all together, to ensure that we do have that ecosystem in Europe, providing the equipment layer, the infrastructure, but also, of course, the software layer over what will be virtualized, software-controlled compute connectivity networks. The focus at the moment is on telco edge cloud. We believe that European telcos have a key role to play in actually providing that, in acting as a counterweight to some of the very large global hyperscalers in cloud, who are increasingly prevalent and availing of the possibilities of Cloud RAN, but who, interestingly enough, don't want to become telco operators because they don't want to be regulated. And that shows an imbalance which was addressed in another section of the white paper, which I'll come to very briefly. But in this, we set out different options for investment, different options for technology development, and particularly research. We also said that the joint undertaking, the Smart Networks and Services joint undertaking, which we jointly control with the 60 Industry Association, that they may take a coordinating role with regard to some of these objectives. But there are other communities that we have to bring in together. We have to look at the output from the Data Cloud Alliance, from the IPCEI on cloud infrastructure and services. And of course, how do we better use the existing funding that is available at European and national level? This is just to show you work that's going on, but Erzsebet Fitori will speak about this in the context of the work of the joint undertaking. So I won't touch on that, but of course there is work going on in the joint undertaking addressing similar needs. But what we do need to look at is the framing of all of that work. And so just to mention, as I said, that there will be work on the internal market part, the telco regulation, where the role, but also the power of European telcos is somewhat challenged by competition from those who are not telcos, but in this increasingly converged area. And that is a major political issue, not for discussion today, but which does have an impact on how receptive and ready this important part of European industry will be to actually implement our vision for converged computing and connect networks. The third part of the white paper was in relation to submarine cables, submarine cable infrastructures. Now here, this was a recognition that we can work as much as we want on the provision of computing and connectivity in Europe, connecting to the web to the internet, using online capacity for industrial as well as social purposes. But if we do not secure our cables in this increasingly fraught geopolitical atmosphere, with the terrible invasion of Ukraine as one example of how vulnerable some of this infrastructure is, then we will have a problem. And that is why we made a clear statement with regard to the need to reinforce our RNI, to look at the security issues, to have a joint governance system for cables, not just those in or around the European Union coastal waters, but also reaching out to our key economic partners, where that linkage, those connections are critical for the development of online services for a huge number of European businesses, not just financial services, but many others. And we need to also look at our instruments as to how we have this coordinated action. There will also be work that was promised in the future on quantum cryptography. But to show how vital and critical the issue was, we also issued a recommendation on secure and submarine cable infrastructures, and we'll be working with member states and industry in the future. But I wanted to stop there by saying that at the heart of this work is our focus on ensuring that Europe is capable of competing in a global market. We're not drawing lines and closing down borders, but we want to, just as we've already done with regard to chips, with regard to high-performance computing, we want also in advanced communications, particularly 6G, but also, of course, core networks and fiber-driven networks, and in compute, and in the convergence of those two previously segmented sectors of the digital economy, that European players are able to benefit, that they are able to input and actually be competitive because of the impact that that will have on the European economy and productivity. And the work that you're doing, the issues that you will discuss here for the next 2.5 days, are critical in getting us to that goal. So not only do I want you to have a great conference, I want you to come back from EuCNC inspired as to how your organization can contribute to this vision. Thank you so much for your attention and have a great conference.
So now I'll give the floor. I'm happy to proud to announce that Ms. Erzsebet Fitori, the Executive Director of the SNS-JU office, will have the welcome address as well. Please, Erzsebet, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the kind invitation to participate as a speaker for the very first time in this very prestigious event. Building on some of the key messages that Pearse has already shared with you, I thought that perhaps I could provide you with a little bit of an overview of the development of the SNS joint undertaking, this genuinely pan-European initiative in partnership between the public and the private sectors, and tell you a bit about where we are in our journey with regard to 6G research and provide a little bit of a sneak preview towards the next year. So first of all, maybe just a brief overview to many of you here. This slide might be familiar, who we are. The Smart Networks and Services Joint Undertaking is really the EU's research agenda, research program towards 6G. It is extremely heavily based on collaboration and partnership. On the one hand, collaboration and partnership between our two main members, the European Commission and the 6G Industry Association representing the private side, but also very strong involvement of member states through our states representatives group, with whom we have strategic discussions and seek their input and opinion on important issues. Just yesterday, we have had a very lively discussion about the strategically quite important topic of standardization and Europe's role in it. We also engage with a broader set of stakeholders through our stakeholders group, and whilst our main objective is really to facilitate European leadership in 6G development and ultimately the economic and societal opportunities that come with that. However, we do that also in international collaboration, especially with like-minded regions like the United States, Japan, and South Korea. May I just also say and give a bit of a tribute to the very dedicated team and office who are behind the 6G joint undertaking. Many of whom are here in the audience, and you have probably met them in different workshops taking place yesterday. It's a tiny dedicated team today of 15 team members who have become sort of an autonomous operation, implementing our own budget as of the end of October last year. It's important to mention that we are implementing primarily EU funds, 900 million euros of Horizon Europe funds for research and innovation activities, which is matched by the private side with co-funding and additional activities, in-kind contribution in additional activities. So the total value that we are looking at is approximately 1.8 billion euros going into research and innovation. Our work program and research agenda is fully aligned with the strategic priorities of Europe. There are 5 strategic priorities that you can see on the slide. I would like to zoom in a little bit on the 3 areas that Pearse has addressed in his presentation. First of all, sustainability. Our clear objective is support the EU's Green Deal, as well as the sustainability goals of the UN. And we do have some dedicated activities to that. First of all, we have in the work program of 2024, which you could see for a minute on the screen in Pearse's presentation, a flagship initiative with regard to sustainability, which is a novelty of this year's work program. Secondly, we have already a lot of projects, both from our first call and second call, ongoing, approximately 30 projects, if I am not mistaken, which are specifically dedicated, on the one hand, to increasing the energy efficiency of radio access networks, and on the other hand, researching into various energy efficiency aspects of future 6G networks. Sustainability is very important, of course, from an environmental perspective, but our research agenda also spans and looks into societal sustainability as well as economic sustainability, which will in turn, of course, be very important from the perspective of European leadership and competitiveness of our connectivity players, as well as the verticals that they enable. Pearse has also spoken quite a lot about security, cybersecurity, and a policy context of security. Clearly, this is a very high priority in the context of our research agenda. On the one hand, our work program specifically foresees security conditions based on the 5G toolbox, the related communication, as well as the economic security strategy. On the other hand, a lot of our projects, approximately 19 projects, are actually carrying out research activities in the fields of network security and privacy, targeting, of course, extremely trustworthy future 6G networks. And finally, competitiveness and leadership of European sectors, which is, of course, a strategically extremely important area, but quite challenging to address through research activities. So there are a few aspects that I would call out. Perhaps one important aspect is that our program is really designed to be an end-to-end program, which already nurtures ecosystems and looks at really use cases and trials with verticals. Currently, we are including 16 verticals in our projects, and we have 4 ongoing large-scale trials with verticals. And in next year's work program, we are probably going to, or well, this is up for discussion, but we will probably add 4 more. I have mentioned standardization, and European involvement and leadership in standardization is also really important. We have a support action which looks at the impact and also the evolution of our projects, and on the basis of data collected by them, we see that from our Call 1 proposals, there have been more than 300 contributions to standardization and over 30 patent applications. So I think these are some of the key examples of how research initiatives can address, hopefully quite effectively in the end, strategic priorities and policy priorities. Our program takes a phased approach. As you can see, it spans 3 phases. The first phase starting really with building on the good work carried out by the 5G PPP and bridging from 5G development towards 6G development, with the ultimate objective at the end of the last stage to develop full 6G systems. Our phased approach is also quite aligned with the international agenda. As you can see, I am not sure there is a pointer. There probably, yes, there is. So our agenda is also quite aligned with the international standardization activities, with global standardization processes kicking off already next year. I thought about showing a little bit where we are today with our work program. What you can see is it's a quite heavy slide, but what you can see is really our work program structure and the different calls for proposals that we have already carried out. I will try to use, again, my pointer to guide you through a little bit this slide. So in phase 1, we have started with so-called Stream A projects, which are really following an evolutionary approach from 5G towards 6G. Now, these are, we have had these kinds of projects in our first call, and in our second and third calls, we are focusing only on the later streams B, C, and D. Stream B is really looking at research activities for radical technology advancements towards 6G definition. So really we are looking at novel technology development with a view of having them present in commercial networks of the future. Then stream C is really experimental infrastructures and platforms. And here we are looking at kind of enablers and proofs of concept with regards to 6G, further 6G networks. And then stream D, large-scale trials with verticals is a key area which is really representing, I think, very much our end-to-end approach of building ecosystems for future business uses. Also, this latter stream D is very much aligned, I think, with the prospects that we have heard about from Pearse with regard to the white paper and further focus on large-scale trials with verticals. I also wanted to show you a little bit the projects which are carrying out these research activities and their logos. I hope you will recognize many of them. They are present here on the exhibition floor. Which takes me to where we are exactly today. We are exactly just a few days before the evaluation process of our last call for proposals. We have received more than 100 proposals to our call that closed on the 18th of April, which we are going to evaluate in the coming weeks based on the Horizon Europe rules and framework, but topped up by our own criteria for project selection. And as you can see, these criteria, these are specific to the SNSJU, but they are also quite closely aligned with the policy priorities that we have discussed before. So keep tuned as to which will be the announced successful projects later this year. And then finally, a little bit of a sneak preview into what will come next year, Work Program 2025. I have to start with a disclaimer that this is very much work in progress, and this is where we are today with our discussions. However, this is not yet an approved work program. It will come later in the year, but what you can see on the screen is a work program structure that is I think representative of the key discussions that have taken place with our two members. You can see that very likely we will have a quite similar budget to 2024. We will be spending approximately 130 million euros, a very similarly sized project portfolio of approximately 16 projects. It is also seeking to align with the policy direction foreseen in the white paper, so with focus on edge cloud in stream C and additional large-scale trials with verticals in stream D. What I would maybe just mention, what might be different from last year's work program is that research activities will have to carry on looking further into the future, which might result in having more low-tail or long-term research projects in the next year. However, this is work in progress. There are many more discussions to come, and we will publish our work program after it is adopted by our governing board with the opinion of the state representatives group towards the end of this year. I hope that you will have many more interesting discussions at the conference. And of course, I'm very happy to engage further and discuss later on over a coffee if you have any questions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce to Ms. Erika Caluwaerts, who's the Alderwoman of Economy, Innovation and Digitalization Cabinet of the City of Antwerp. So, Erika, thank you very much for being here with us representing the City of Antwerp. The floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you can see me, but I cannot see you. If you see the headscarf, I'm still there. But also on behalf of the City of Antwerp, a very warm welcome. Johann, we are very, very proud to be the host city for this magnificent and this superb event. And of course, I do not have a PowerPoint presentation, but I saw a very nice video about our vibrant city, but I would like to add some 10 minutes opportunity to highlight the dynamic and vibrant city of Antwerp. I do not know if you saw it last night. I understood there was a party yesterday, and maybe some of you saw it during the night. But we live really in a vibrant and dynamic city. And we like to call us a city that is truly a global beacon of innovation and economic growth. So if you see Antwerp, Antwerp is a rather small city. We only have 530,000 citizens. But in Flanders, it's the largest city in Flanders, and it is the economic engine of the region. We have the second largest seaport in Europe and the world's second largest integrated petrochemical industry cluster, which is a significant investment of 11.5 billion euros over the last decade. Our city is also the undisputed leader in the international diamond trade, where 86% of all rough diamonds and 50% of all cut diamonds pass through. And we also have a vibrant retail sector, especially known for fashion, with the Antwerp 6 and other creative talents leading the way. So we have a rich history and a certain dominance in global markets. So Antwerp's commitment to innovation is deeply rooted in this history. The city drive to innovate has transformed it into a gateway to one of the world's most prosperous regions. And today, Antwerp is a hub for highly innovative businesses, boosting a thriving cultural scene and a diverse population over 172 nationalities. Digital innovation, circularity, and health are the pillars of our future economy. Our economy rests on our fundamental pillars, as I told you before, the port, our chemical cluster, our diamond center, and our retail fashion center. So Antwerp is not just about tradition, it's about creativity and innovation. So Antwerp's success as an innovation powerhouse is a result of strong collaboration between the City of Antwerp, the Port of Antwerp-Bruges, the University of Antwerp, and innovative companies. And together we are working on 5 key priorities aligned with the European SDGs: beat climate change, build a digital and sustainable port of the future, achieve a sustainable transition of the chemical cluster, make Antwerp a healthier city, and innovate traditional sectors like diamond, fashion, and retail. So we are building, as a city, we are building and stimulating ecosystems within our innovation clusters. And at the heart of these ecosystems are our innovation hubs, where startups, scale-ups, and established companies collaborate on groundbreaking solutions. The City of Antwerp always supports and also participates in these hubs, focusing on our 4 key domains. As I told you before, sustainable chemistry. And for sustainable chemistry, we have Blue App and Blue Gem. For technological innovation for the port industry and mobility, we have The Beacon and NCA and Plug and Play. For our energy transition and hydrogen, we have, of course, the Port of Antwerp-Bruges and within the next-gen Demo district. And for our health innovation, we have Dundon as the health hub in synergy with imec-Ghent and Antwerp Health Hub. So if we focus a little bit on the Beacon is a dynamic ecosystem that combines a workplace and an innovation hub, bringing together technology companies, research and development, innovation actors and citizens to collaborate on smart IoT and AI solutions to keep our world livable and sustainable. The Beacon is a community for IoT and AI with international ambition, focusing on smart cities, smart mobility, smart port and logistics, and smart industry. Founded with 6 partners, Lentis Agoria, the University of Antwerp, imec, the city and port, the Beacon is the leading hotspot for collaboration, matchmaking, and realization of concepts and projects. It builds bridges and creates excellent partnerships between companies offering all necessary knowledge and support for financing and grants. So we have a lot of notable members out of, I think at the moment, we're counting 97 in total. But some notable members, first of all, imec, we have Proximus, we have Orange, we have Helicus, Rombit, Fujitsu, Siemens Digital Industries, Data Roots, ML6, Codit, In the Pocket, Faction, and also Antwerp is a part of the Beacon, as I told you before, because also for the city itself, digitalization is a priority. We are very, very aware that a digital transformation is also for a city is very necessary. So at the moment, we are transforming our organization and devices to achieve useful services, simple services, pleasant services. We also want to offer city users a safe experience. So we are investing heavily in cybersecurity and privacy, preferable privacy by design, of course. We are also stepping up our efforts in data quality to be ready for future innovation projects, for example, based on AI. In practice, the ultimate example of this approach is the recently launched My Antwerp app. During its development, we heavily invested in users' research, also considering less digitally savvy citizens. And the mobile-first approach forces our services to work towards simple, customer-oriented, end-to-end processes. So regarding the digital landscape managed by Digipolis Antwerp, we are consciously opting for simplification. By focusing on a few preferred solutions, the landscape becomes more manageable in terms of security and knowledge development, for example. Our ecosystem, over the past decade, Antwerp has grown into a mature innovation ecosystem. Currently, we have 751 startups valued at 3.6 billion euros. This is a significant increase from the 613 million euros 10 years ago, and it shows that our effort and those of our partners, including accelerators and incubators, are paying off. In 2023, the most funded industries in Antwerp were enterprise software, health, semiconductors, energy, and marketing. The city is also home to a large pool of highly trained talent, with more than 50,000 students attending our higher education institutions annually. We have recently been recognized as a magnet for foreign investments, achieving runner-up in the strategy category in the European Cities and Regions of the Future 2024-2025 rankings by the FDI Intelligence. And in 2023, Antwerp saw a 59% surge in foreign investments, attracting 50 new investment projects worth 1.93 billion euros and creating 629 new jobs. So, in conclusion, Antwerp is open for business and is open for innovation. The city's policy is firmly committed to stimulating ecosystems for innovation by bringing together capital, companies and knowledge institutions. And our role as a government is just to strengthen market dynamics and act as a reliable partner and matchmaker. So thank you to the organizing partners and all of you for being here. And I wish you all an inspiring day. Thank you.
Now we'll proceed, giving the floor to our conference general co-chair, Peter Vetter, who's president of Bell Labs Core Research. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Johan. So welcome also from my side, and I need to take the clicker with me here. Welcome also from my side to this wonderful event. For me, this is really a pleasure to be the co-chair, together with Pearse, of this EuCNC 6G Summit. For me, this is coming home in two ways. One, I spent half of my career here in Antwerp at Nokia. The office of Nokia is on the other side of the zoo here, 15 minutes walk. The other reason is my last stint before I moved to the United States was actually the lead of a European flagship project on broadband access. And its closing event was here in an event organized by Broadband World that is similar to the joint undertaking SNS now for broadband research at a time, led by Peter van Daele. And the closing event was here at Broadband Europe in this very same conference center. That was in 2007. Antwerp is really an ideal place to host a European conference. Antwerp has a typical European history with the Roman Empire, the Empire of Charlemagne, and then Charles V. And when the Empire of Charles V broke up, this region became part of Spain. And the map that you see of the 17th century is the city as it was under the Spanish. And then in the 18th century, we became part of Austria. Under Napoleon, we became part of France. And then after the Battle of Waterloo, we became part of the Netherlands until 1830. So when we became independent as Belgium. And if you think of Roman Empire, we were even part of Italy. So a very European city, if you want, and hence an ideal place to host a conference. We're also 40 minutes train ride away from the European capital. This exposure to this diversity of cultures and also this exposure to the economies and the drive enabled by the harbor of Antwerp has really been a place where culture and innovation can thrive. Antwerp, also the city of Peter Paul Rubens. And if you have time, not during the conference, but after the conference, to go to one of his paintings in the museum or in the cathedral, look at these paintings with the eyes of the 17th century person, not with your eyes now saturated with 12 hours screen time, but with people that haven't seen images for weeks, and they come to the city of Antwerp, they enter the cathedral, and they see this representation of biblical stories with such realism. This is the wow, the awe equivalent of 3D multimedia virtual reality experience today. So Peter Paul Rubens didn't think of himself as an artist. He was a businessman. You can visit his house here. He had a workshop there. He employed people. He was in the business of imaging. And present day, he would probably be running a company like Netflix. Similar, Christopher Plantin in the 16th century embraced high-tech technology for information sharing, transitioning from the moniker handwriting to printing. And he specialized in printing of maps also. So present day, he would be probably running a company like Google. Taking these innovations further closer to telecommunications, Alexander Graham Bell, the invention of the telephone in Massachusetts, United States, but his father-in-law on the left-hand side here, Gardner Hubbard, he was on a business trip in Europe, and the Belgian government convinced him to have the headquarters of the new telephone company in Europe. And that happened through incentives like funding, influencing the economy, the importance of that. And then there was an Antwerp entrepreneur, Francis Wellens, on the right-hand side, that created the very first Bell telephone manufacturing company that manufactured the equipment for that new technology. And that was the start of Dun Bell, as people here in Antwerp call it, with different mother companies for a history of more than 140 years, and present-day Nokia here in Belgium. And you see in the backdrop of that picture, you see the very first commercial ADSL modem pioneered here in Antwerp, and a big success. And still today, Nokia Bell here in Antwerp is the headquarters for Nokia for the broadband access business. And today that is fiber to the home and 5G fixed wireless access. Antwerp is also an important site for R&D activities in routing and in cloud network services. Nokia Antwerp is also one of our Bell Labs research sites, and we're embracing here the local ecosystem with University of Antwerp, the University of Ghent, Leuven, Free University of Brussels, and imec. And then also the harbor, a very important catalyst for partnerships and innovations here. And I'll have here a little...
CFAR is a technology company developing technology to remotely operate crew-reduced or unmanned vessels in the inland industry. When we're remotely operating a barge, the critical aspect is the connection between the vessel and the remote operating center. We need the connection between the vessel and the remote operating center to be hyper-stable to assure the operational availability of the vessel and the safety.
In the past, CFAR relied on the commercial network infrastructure to enable the communication between the vessel and the remote captain. The quality that they needed for that communication was not guaranteed.
That's where Network as a Service, in short, NAS, comes in. Network as a Service allows developers to program and customize the behavior of a commercial mobile network.
Telenet and Liberty Global have deployed Nokia's 5G standalone technology. This enables 5G slicing, which reserves and prioritizes network resources.
Our situational awareness application is creating geofenced areas in the port to indicate the busiest areas. And once the remote captain is approaching that area, the application is dynamically triggering the change in the network and the quality of the connectivity. And we can already see that the obstacles and the challenges that we had in the port and in such environments can be overcome with NAS.
What we're doing here is just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be hundreds of use cases in the port itself, and all of the industrial verticals that they are, these create significant underpinnings of how technology can be used to drive innovation and digitalization.
So see what you can do with 5G, imagine what you can do with 6G. I like this picture, and I like this building here in Antwerp of the new port house. It was designed by one of my favorite architects, Zaha Hadid, and she quite nicely captured the city of Antwerp with the boat, the diamonds. But what she also did very nicely is integrate the modern architecture with the historical building. And there's a metaphor here in this picture. We also want to think of 6G as in engineers' terms, a simple, beautiful technology, but that takes into account the legacy architecture to really enable the future innovation. So with that, I also want to say a bit ahead, there will be a keynote from my colleague, Azimeh Sefidcon, and I want to think of her as the Zaha Hadid of networking. So stay tuned in a few minutes. I want to conclude, as said, it's a real pleasure to be the co-chair of this event. It's an easy job. I would like to thank the people that do the real hard work, that is the organizing committee and the technical committee, and I want to wish you an inspiring conference and enjoy Antwerp. We have a bit of protocol. Yep.
Thanks for always being with us.
Thank you. Okay, and now I have to check my luggage now.
Yeah. But it's worth.
Yes.
So now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, who's the local organizing chair, Professor Peter van Daele.
Yep.
Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Johan. Thank you, everybody, for the introductory talks. As chair of the local organizing committee, the first point I would like to ask all of you is if you have any question, if you have any problem, just look for somebody wearing these blue t-shirts. They will try to help you, and or if they cannot help you, they will direct you to the right person. It's also my pleasure to give you a few statistics. And the first one is try to seek and try to estimate the number of people attending. Well, this is the graph showing, as a function of time, the registrations that we received for this conference. And we're actually, the latest count was 945 at lunchtime yesterday, but in the meantime we got over 950 already. So perhaps we'll do our best to get to 1,000, but if we do not reach it, it will be a challenge for next year's edition to get EuCNC over 1,000 participants. Now, if you look into history, these are some numbers of the past few years, and you see that in blue are the on-site registrations, so the in-persons. We had 2 years of COVID with 100% online participation. Those are the red curves, and then one edition with hybrid. But if you look at this edition with the 950 people, we're the highest in-person conference for EuCNC ever. So thank you for all of you for attending. Now, where do you come from? There are in total 44 countries represented here in participants. It's shown here the number of participants per country. Number one is Belgium, one ahead of Germany. Well, of course, it's a little bit tricky because we also count all the people from the European Commission as being from Belgium. So thank you very much. That's why we're the largest one. But for the rest, yes, okay, it's very similar to the statistics per country for the paper submissions, of course. Now, for those who were here around yesterday already for the workshops or already wandered around this morning in the venue, it's a little bit tricky to find all the rooms. So this is going to be a little bit of a kind of show to where the different rooms are. We are here now. This is obvious. There's the Queen Elizabeth Hall. Here are going to be all the plenary talks, the panels, the plenary panels, and so on, and also so the general area, the central area for all of the activities. The main entrance, that's already something that you found since you're here. It's together with the registration area. And then you have the exhibition area on the ground floor, 3 different parts, but it's, let's say, very well connected with each other. And then you have on the, that side what's called the historical wing, where you have the Darwin Hall and the Galapagos Hall for the apparel sessions. And on the other side, you have what's called the Carnot wing or the new wing. You have a whole set of rooms which are called on the first floor the gorilla rooms, and on the second floor you have the bird rooms, which are nightingale, pelican, peacock, and toucan. How to get there? There are 4 stairs that you can take, indicated by the yellow arrows. Now, if you look around and look at all those names of the rooms, it looks like a jungle or a zoo. Well, indeed, we are facing or next to the zoo, and in fact, this conference belongs to the zoo. And if the conference makes profit, or the conference center makes profit, the operational cost, then part of this profit is supporting the breeding program of endangered species in the zoo itself. So part of your registration fee is used for supporting those breeding programs. Now, we also have an exhibition. This is the floor plan of the exhibition. It's also in the conference bags. The yellow dots are where the stairs are. And in total, we have 58 exhibitors, different sizes. We also have some poster booths, where projects are representing, projects especially that just started, that do not have a technical demo yet, are also available. Make also sure that you vote in the app for the best booth, because we have an award for that, so take part in that survey and vote for the best booth. Coffee breaks in the schedule, program schedule, they're scheduled in the morning and the afternoon in the exhibition area, but in fact the coffee breaks, you can grab a coffee during the whole day, there's no problem, but in the sessions, in the program schedule, it's scheduled 2 times, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. We also have lunch breaks in the exhibition area. So in the schedule, it's from 1 to 2, but lunch will be served a little bit earlier also for the exhibitors to allow them to grab something to eat before you as participant come in. Then there is the gala dinner on Wednesday. Some of you have already got tickets. Well, we have to close the registrations for that because we are at total capacity now. But it illustrates a little bit of how we work in Belgium. You have the official way and you have the real way. It's so that the official address for the gala dinner, which is the Handelsbeurs, is well, on this side, but you cannot enter from that side. So if you either walk from here, it's about 15 to 20 minutes walk, you will enter from this side on the Meer, or if you take the metro, there is a stop called Metro Station Meer, and then you have to go to the other side, which is the real address, the real entrance. So this is illustrating how we work. So make sure that you check the address. On the ticket, it's the official address, but here on the website, in the app and things like that is the real address that you should use. Make sure to download the app, mobile app, to get the latest updates on the program, also the latest push notifications of things that are happening, changes in the program or whatever. Also start of the session, start of some of the social activities. So make sure that you download the app. Then I would also like to thank from my side, last point, our sponsors. They are listed here. Johann already mentioned them. And I would also like to clarify a little bit what we're handing out to the keynotes or the guests that we have this morning. Well, in fact, it's a bottle of beer. We're in Belgium. But it's a specially brewed beer. It's locally brewed here, and it's brewed specifically for the event. So it carries the label of the conference itself. It's a unique present. It's a unique gift. It's not for sale, unfortunately. We're not going to make money out of it. Okay, so let's thank again also the supporting organizations for the event and also the whole team from the organizing committee. And I really hope you enjoy the conference and you have time to enjoy Antwerp as well. Thank you very much.
So waiting for the slides. Anyway, you can take a look at it. Okay, so now we will proceed with our first keynote speaker. Let me introduce Azimeh Sefidcon, who's the head of Network System and Security Research at Bell Labs. In this role, she leads a global team of researchers responsible for sketching the future vision of network systems and demonstrating the differentiators with the technologies covering security, automation, advanced computing, and end-to-end network evolution, taking the steps toward a potential paradigm shift in networking. So let me welcome Azimeh, and thank you very much for sharing today with us. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Johann, and thank you, Peter, for earlier remark. There was a little bit of load on my shoulder, but I'll do my best. It is actually a true pleasure to stand here and talk about a subject that I'm truly passionate about. In fact, the next 40 minutes or so is an experience for me and also for you. Whether you are sitting here or watching online, later when you recall the event, you will remember an experience, whether it is an inspiring experience, a learning experience, or different one. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that as human beings, we remember experiences. We go to great length to avoid some experiences or experience new things. And we mostly are willing to pay for the new or enhanced experiences. So I'm going to talk about unified networking experience in 6G era. And my intention is to leave you with an inspiring experience. Unified networking experience that, which for short we call it UNext, is focused on the evolution of network system software and with the focus on experience of anybody who's dealing with the network, whether it is the end user like you and me, the app developer, the enterprise, different actors, co-creators, and also network operator themselves. UNext also intentionally rhymes with the Unix for two reasons. From one side, we want to draw from the principle of designing an operating system. And from the other side, we believe if we do it right, we will transform the network to act actually as an operating system across the industry. So to lead this journey and to transfer this message to you, I'll try to organize the talk in pointing to a few trends that are shaping the industry around the networking. Also, I will refer to the challenges that we are facing with network to ride these trends and how do we address them that we end up in the unified networking experience. And then I will close with some user example to actually put it in the context. Starting from the beginning, we are in the 5G era, and we know that the 5G adoption is scaling. And the awareness of the 5G is everywhere. However, still there is a question, burning question about the monetization of the 5G. If you remember, when you bought your first mobile phone, probably it was a blue one, you bought an experience, at least I did, because it's changed my experience with the phone, because then I didn't need to be in a fixed location. Going back to, we pay for new experience. What changed for the user and the one who's dealing with the network with the 5G? In fact, the GSMA intelligence survey is telling us that more than 50% of the consumers are looking at the 5G as extra speed, but they are looking for combination of services, capability that they have with device, and something that is impacting their daily life. Probably you have seen many of the new partnership of the operator and different content provider in the different area. For each of the partnership, normally there is a big press release and anybody is aware of that. But that is an attempt to bring the component together. A complicated use cases or complex use cases that involve the enhancement of the device, but also digital services and also the network in between. So talking about the devices, the user experience actually starts from the device. And it has been so, and it will continue to be so. And we know that the device ecosystem also is expanding. I know at least in the audience there are sitting people that are really passionate about the device. And it has to be so, because there is a lot of potential with the devices. The enhancement and expansion of the devices are dependent on three things. First is the capabilities and on the sensors, the advancement on the sensing part, the powerful processing on the device, but also the operating system that sometimes is being neglected. The operating system make it possible to have an easier interaction with the user and application that are running on the device, but also combination of other digital services on the surrounding. However, today, still there is a challenge with power consumption on the device, and there are other restrictions. For example, you cannot have unlimited storage on the device. There is a place that network can play a massive role for the cases of offloading, but also privacy of the data and connection with the other applications that are on the device, but also saving bandwidth as well in the local, at the edge of the network. The device itself is going to even become more sophisticated as we go forward. It will be much more enhanced and capable front end toward the application, but also combination and correlation with the other devices. Device players are seeking autonomy, and there is a wish to combine the capability of the devices in one location. Think for yourself as an end user. In your home, imagine all your devices are connected to each other, and you can share things between them within your own location, but then you need something to bind them together, and the network again can play a role. all of this intelligence, extra capability, flexibility, and correlation of the workload, operating system, capability of device and network, all will happen in the software. But what is it, the evolution of the software? Where are we going with that? I want to step back for a second and remind ourselves that communication originally is hardware-centric. So when we talk about communication network, we are talking about satellite, routers, switches, base station, cables, and so on. And we are going to continue to need the physical infrastructure. In that hardware-centric view of the communication network, however, the software plays a role to manage one network element. And if we continue with that approach in mind, we may miss the opportunity with the bigger role that the software can play. And actually, if we look back from 2010 so far, we have already seen so much progress on the role of the software in the network. We went from the software on the monolithic boxes, just managing one component, to actually software-defined networking, to be able to configure autonomously a piece of network, to actually software-defined architecture, being able to boot even the end-to-end slice of the network by the software. But going further down that path, we can actually imagine booting and configuring and bringing up the entire network with the software, autonomously and in a dynamic way. And the disaggregation of the hardware and software from one side, the openness, and also more enhancement on the software technology itself will allow us to do that. Talk about the neural network, we are talking about much more technologies on the software, no code, low code, etc., that you can actually start seeing these things happening faster. But with the network software in mind, then I would like to actually share some of the challenges of the network, how to deal with that. One thing that we should also remember that software technologies sometimes are confused as there is a software element, software function, but also the software entire system, how they are correlated together. They are not necessarily the same. But coming to the network challenges in the software space, I start with, from the operator point of view. First, you have the interoperability challenge. The interoperability between legacy system and the new system. The interoperability between even solutions that coming from the one vendor. The vendor-specific solutions such that the vendor doesn't want to have too much variety of the same solution. And of course, among the solutions that you need to bring together for the complex use case that I talk about. Another complexity, interestingly, rises from the attempt for automation. We have tried to address many of the challenges in the network with automation, layers of automation, one after another. In fact, I want to recommend one thing. Next time you hear the word overlay network, just run. Or pause and ask the question, how many layers does it take to make the network simple? The other thing is that with the network, we have sometimes paradoxes. We want the security in the network, but we want also sustainability. We know that the security feature will take extra power, and then we want to reach our sustainability goal, and the first thing we turn off is the security function. The other thing is that we look for the customized solution. That's something that we believe that this network is built right just for me, but at the same time on the vendor side, if we need to have a general system to be able to scale the business. So that's where we face a paradox. And if we want to have a light version of network from one side, at the same time we wanted to have it customizable, then we need to have all the features there, then it becomes very heavy. So really in the deployment of the network, we face paradoxes. So can we agree on one thing? Whatever we do for the design of the future network, we should have simplicity as one fundamental critical requirement. Then I want to talk about the security. Previous speaker also talked about the security, rightfully. And when it comes to security, I go to actually point to 3 sources of security challenges, or where we introduce a security hazard. First is, unfortunately, is human. Yes, you and me. And that's based on the behavior from one side. Sometimes also you are in rush, lack of awareness, but also perhaps a lack of tools that prevent those mistakes that are happening. Because human at the end is human, but do we have enough tools to prevent and detect those things? Another security challenge comes from software supply chain. Software supply from one side is we have fancier and more complicated DevOps tools. And then we have the open source, but also the human that can, again, introduce an error in the code, and then we live with that, and we create security hazard. There is a lot of attention on this, but it's a pretty complex situation. One thing is also whether we build the security inside the system itself, or we try to work it out as an overlay. And hopefully you remember my comment about the overlay. The third thing is about the security is, of course, openness and disaggregation. We see the benefit of disaggregation. We need openness, and we need to actually correlate with other entities that are surrounding the network, but that creates extra security challenges, because we are actually expanding the security threat surface in a sense. And that is something to watch for. There is also, of course, combination of AI and security, so combination of what is the advance of the AI make possible. Today, pretty much everything that a human can think about could be also mimicked by an AI, so AI actually can play a role of the attacker without even a human being in the picture. There are currently a lot of funding, a lot of research happening in combination of AI and security, but that is something to build again into the system. So can we agree again that security should be one of the critical fundamental requirements of building the future network? Then we have actually the continuation and the progress of the software system technology. So the software by itself, mostly driven from the IT company, is actually progressing pretty fast. AI is not a hype anymore. From the students doing their homework with ChatGPT to many engineers actually generating code with ChatGPT, we cannot ignore that. AI actually is everywhere, and we see that is going to expand. And it is predicted to be about 450 billion value across the entire industry. Another area is the Internet of Value. A combination in a technical forum, we call it decentralized environment, peer-to-peer system. General population is familiar with the blockchain concept, which was one way of actually kind of the back end of the Bitcoin. Perhaps that's what the population is familiar with. But it's, in a sense, one example of a state machine replication technology, but that we see also is going to increase in usage. API economy is also something that has settled pretty much across the industry and as a service model, and that also there is a huge business investment. 92% of business investment in API will continue. The other area is, of course, cloud. There is not new anymore. We know that is something to stay, but also we see that about 86% of organizations reporting to continue or increase their cloud investment. And in this area, a combination of cloud and whatever solution that you have yourself already, and in this case become combination of cloud and network becomes the challenge. So the word of convergence that we heard about earlier from the speaker, now I think whoever deals with the cloud has to think, how do I actually converge from my solution toward the cloud as well? And last but not the least is Industry 5.0 is the big name for digitalization of industry, where we see that really it's going to continue as well, and there is an estimation of 48 billion from 2020 to 2026 in this space. And what I want to say from here, you're all familiar with this concept. The reason I bring it here, because I want to focus on the fact that each of these is not a single technology, it's a full system software by itself. And thinking about applying AI, sometimes we hear just apply AI. Apply AI where? What? AI is the entire system, entire framework, so many technology by itself. So we have to start pondering on the real question. Each of these are paradigm shift in software system by themselves. A network by itself is also a system. How do you combine two systems together? This cannot be overlooked or be trivialized. Or worse, to be delegated to someone else. What is happening with the network in this area? So as I said, network is a system itself to begin with, but we have the promised prediction of AI in the network as well. But we know that there are a lot of data across the network. A network is not one component, one single solution, is a distributed system by itself. So you have data everywhere, and collecting this data, driving knowledge from that, today is not possible. Then even take it further and look at the use cases, complex use cases that we said. Involves device, invites the edge of the network, invites actually the other actors to play. Data is spread across all of those domains. How do you bring it together? Today, this is not possible to do, or not possible to do easily. Then we talked about the Internet of Value and decentralized environment, and that for every single solution, then you will have multiple owner, multiple vendor, multiple actors. How do they actually come together? Today, there is a still fixed value chain build, or those partnerships that are one by one announced, they are basically trying to do this handshake in advance. Is that scalable, or can we need to do that actually in a dynamic way? Third, on the API economy and as a service, if we really want to benefit from that, we cannot rely on a static way of building the services in the network. Today, the services are pretty much built in advance or one at a time, or takes us a year or so to build a new service to expose. So the whole notion of as a service model and exposure is accepted in the telecom industry, but the service creation is not dynamically done. We talked about the cloud and convergence of cloud and network, and the case of edge cloud. I assume everybody is familiar with edge cloud, so I don't go to the basic of it. But what is there is important to note. The execution environment of those services or those complex use cases is not in one domain. It spans from part in the device, part in the edge of the network, part maybe on other part of the standalone computing, or in the cloud, remote cloud. So how do you actually work that entire continuum? The notion of continuum also has been there, but the abstraction layers and also the acceptable way across the whole industry is still missing. And on the Industry 5.0 and digitalization, one thing that is important to note is the interaction between the network and application that are in the industry. Today, this is also pretty fixed. So the application performance is done by application owner, network performance is done by network owner, and with the best effort, with the best intention, but there is no dynamic interaction and symbiosis between the network and application. So this seems to be daunting. All of these system challenges, I talked about experience at the beginning, I talked about simplicity, security. Is it even doable? And this is normally the place that people will stop me and say, this is daunting. Can you actually start from one corner of it? And I would say no. Why? Because the real message here, real challenge, come from the fact that all of these components, all of these systems are tightly correlated with each other. So if you want to take one message from this speech or this talk today, remember this one. Those systems are tightly correlated with each other. They are dependent on each other. So whoever has started to tackle one of these solutions had ended up, needing the second, needing the third, needing to. So it's almost a star relation here, but these are big systems, complex systems, but they are tightly correlated with each other. And they are seemingly isolated from each other, but this complexity based on the dependency of them is not an obvious thing to meet the eye at the beginning because you become consumed with the complexity of one element. The space of the problem is so big that it seems to be naive to think that all of this can happen together or it can be sorted out. But well, as long as we haven't looked under the hood, we can't see and discover the challenge and actually address that. So this is the space EuCNC is trying to address. How do we want to do that? You see, in the hardware-centric view of the network and the communication system, we had the software playing a role for managing one network element. My fear is that we have moved so long from that, but still in the telecom space, we are looking at the software as it could be managing only one element. So when we talk about the AI, we talk about the edge, we talk about the decentralized environment, the question is where? Tell me where to apply it. And that's unfortunately misleading, unfortunately the wrong question, how all of this system come together. And that's what we want to address. So thinking about moving from that, what is the next approach? So in the EuCNC, we are saying that take a different approach. Look at it in a synthesis way, mean that you look at the entire system that you want to manage and drive your design rule from that, then whatever capability that you want to manage in those, you can use or develop based on those design principles that you have put in place. So if security, reliability, simplicity, interoperability, all of those are your end-to-end design rules or expectation that you have from the system, you need to take them into account and define your design rule before implementing all of that. And that's what we have put our mind to. So with the EuCNC, we are moving from addressing each of the capability in isolation, but we want to address all of them simultaneously and combine them all together, capture the correlation through the design system and design methodology that we have. So here, this ring that I put around this is not the ring in the Lord of the Ring, in ring bring all of, combine all of the rings together. It's not the ring of power. It doesn't mean that actually one player needs to do all of that. But in a sense, it's the fundamental principle of designing of it that can bind everything together, even if there are multiple actors and openness and decentralized environment. So on that one, I want to move to actually talk about each of the capability a little bit, and then come talk about how they are going to be combined. First and foremost, I want to go to talk about the network application symbiosis. We talked about the challenges of Industry 5.0 and the fact that the network and application are not dynamically talking to each other. There are few things that actually can affect the application experience. Congestion in the network, determinism, optimal path selection for the specific application, for the specific session. These are all going to affect the experience of the application. And managing to change a piece of network to address one of them at a time with the standardization 3GPP following, or even IETF, it will take 5, if not 10 years to implement one thing at a time. Can we move from that to actually having application and the network to have a dynamic dialogue? We are good in the network with building protocol. Can't we have a protocol to dynamically establish the relation between application and network and see what is it that you need, and then we adjust the behavior of the network. That's what we are aiming at. So UNEX is aiming at automatically creating this mutual context awareness between the application and the network. And one example of that could be the enabler of that is actually end-to-end digital twin of the network. We have one of the demo actually on the floor. You can visit that, but that could be an enabler. So if we have a digital twin of the environment, that both network and application can work it together to adapt themselves and also see what is needed to configuration of the network or the application. I will not go more detail on that, but that's just one of the methods for the application and network to talk. Here, I talked about security. There are security challenges and security mechanisms that we need to apply. So we need to think about application trust level. Why should application tell the network what exactly it is? We're going to discover the network, and it's not secure for the network to do that. Can we have, today, the notion of SLA for any service is very clear, but can we have trust level agreement also being handshake between the network and application? Yes, it's technically possible. The other thing is also privacy preserving for the owner of application or the operator of the application. And those are also the mechanisms that we need to take into account from the beginning. But this dynamic interaction of the network and application relies on the data. I talked about the correlation of those components, and you can see that in action as well. So if the network and application relies on a digital twin in between to facilitate that, that's based on the data and also intelligence and models as well. So that takes me to the next group, which is leveraging data and knowledge services. And in this area, there are the challenge is driving the knowledge from the data and the fact that data is not available everywhere. And one of the demos on the floor actually is about the role of the AI in the network. If you're not convinced that AI will be everywhere in the network, you can watch that. So I will not go through that. That we have actually AI mechanism across the network to begin with, but the correlation of them needs to happen. So few required technology are data collection, transforming data to knowledge, but also UNEX wants to address all of that in a holistic data system from the beginning, at least including in our design principle. The intelligent in the network should be like a nervous system across the entire system, and now we are saying distributed system between different actors and so on. On the security side, you have the data privacy again, protection of the data, anonymity of the data, but also many of the other different mechanisms of encryption and so on that needs to be in place to make it secure, make it reliable for people to actually exchange data with each other. So we take that into account as well. But imagine that we have network application symbiosis, we have the knowledge. Now, how do we actually create the services? I talked about services being created in a static way today. how do we go from fast-track creation of the services dynamically. So I talked about challenge of API economy and something that will stay. And the technology that we require in the network to make it possible is to actually facilitate with intent-based management, to actually communicate your intention with the network, and that would be possible to actually compose your services. We need model composition, we need conflict resolution, but then Unix is actually relying on capabilities to enable this dynamic runtime service compositions. However, we don't forget about the user experience again here. One of the demos that we have on the floor is called Natural Language Network. Can actually the user simply talk to the network? Can we have non-expert user that can actually say, what is it that I need from the network? While they are expert in another domain, may not be expert on the network, so can we make it simple? So this demo is also worthy to watch, but that you can say that can change the experience of the user, can't it? So it's really making it as simple as possible for the end user to communicate with the network. But that could be also actually other application also communicating with the network, or other actors communicating with the network, as simple as possible, just expressing their intention, and the services that they require can be composed. Here again, we have security at this level, security challenges, interface attack. With every API, with every service, you expand your surface attack. And when it comes to automation, full autonomy, you have to have closed-loop stability. Now you have built those services where they are going to be deployed. Again, back to the correlation of this system. If you haven't figured out the execution environment, you don't know what to do with this service. So these services need an environment, execution environment that is really adapted to the need of that service. We talked that the continuum that can go from the device to the edge of the network all the way to the cloud. In this space has been called many things. We call it extended computing service. However, it has been called network compute fabric. It has been called integrated network compute fusion, all of that. At the end, network and compute can have to be good citizens and work together, especially for deployment. Compute primarily is for the deployment and processing. So that network has to be a good citizen to work with. So we need to orchestrate heterogeneous computing capability along this continuum. From one side, we need the orchestration mechanism that actually passes through multiple domains. From the other side, we have to cater for the abstraction layer that actually goes over multiple different type of processor. You have constrained processor on the device, you have GPU, you have normal processor, you have eventually QPU as well, you have DPU, and all of those, they are optimal for a specific workload. So this abstraction layer to actually make it easy for any application to interact with from one side, but also to select best optimized environment for a specific workload along that continuum. Again, the security challenges in this space is interaction between all of them, exchange of data. Is the workload actually being easily manageable to move without creating any extra security problem for that? And you can ask, why would anyone actually do that? Why would they share workload with you to move it across the continuum? They don't know you, they don't have any contract with you, which takes me to the next place, which is managing multi-stakeholder environment. So you see the correlation between them, even though none of them, this area is new, but capturing this correlation is the part that is really daunting and worthy challenge for us. So the reality today is that we don't have dynamic value chain creation. because today is the, I actually talked to few lawyers to see what does it take for a legal contract between two partners to come together and how it could be automated. But we actually have a dynamic multidimensional trust mechanism, so we have dynamic contract building, and security in trustless network also is another approach. So the technology or component have been worked in isolation, but we want to bring it together. But also state machine replication I talked about earlier, so it's a well-known technology, but it could be adapted to the environment like that. Competition in this space has been among marketplace player and marketplace builder, but again, each time a marketplace is built, then bringing every new player to that marketplace is a major hurdle because of the lack of feeling that it's secure and I will be having all the trust mechanism in place. And we need, of course, privacy preserving mechanism to work it out. So if they were all of those 5 areas, what about combining all of them together? I promise that there is a combination of all of that and the design rule that bringing them together. And that's what we call end-to-end system dynamic. Capability to bring all of this capability as make them look like one system. Combination of them acting together. And without building a bulky, huge system, we want to do that through design rules. Design rules that take the principle from each of those capabilities. Each of those capabilities have some key principle that we want to combine and have all of those design rules being worked out in a unified system into end-to-end system dynamic. With this design rule, then we will say that every single software element will become an integratable software element, which we call Unix operator, and we make it possible to build all of those capabilities with Unix operator, which somehow brings them, all of them, in an integratable way. With that, we keep the promise of simplicity, similar to what Unix did to make this build-up of the system simple, said everything is a file. Well, not everything in Unix is a file, but in Unix, everything will be a Unix operator, which will take the capability and the principles for key principles that we have in mind for all of those capabilities, build one Unix operator that will guarantee our simplicity of our system. Security, I mentioned security in every single capability that needs to be taken care of, but we also see correlation of those security mechanisms. This is very key element of this solution, that the security mechanism that you have for each of the capability, if you have done it in isolation, then the system is not going to be secure. So therefore, combination of all of that make sure that the entire system becomes secure as well. Because why? All our security mechanisms are also built by Unix operator, that they are easily integratable together. The other one is consumability of this. You don't need to have the entire system because you can actually express your intention, and the software and the service will be composed based on the different Unix operators that are available. And of course, it makes it sustainable because the system is not bulky. So that paradox at the beginning I mentioned, having a customizable system versus having a huge general system that you can take it everywhere and land it everywhere, you can actually compose. While you have it general, you can also have it customized by composition. So there we are aiming for that. But this maybe so far sounds abstract and kind of a lot of promises. How does it look in practice? I will show a couple of examples here. One is the enhanced sensing system. One of the promises of 6G is sensing. And when you are in an environment, the radio system could act as a sensor to actually work for positioning, but there are other sensors in the environment as well, for temperature, for surveillance. Can you actually combine all of those sensors? So you already see you have few actors there. There will be a lot of data. You need a contract between them, and you need all those mechanisms and capability of the UNEX in a secure way. The other example is drone fleet-based video surveillance. There also you have a lot of moving pieces. The drone could move from the coverage, and how do you actually readjust the network or change your workload from one drone to another? So there's flexibility that you need in this system, and part of the solution is on the drone, part is on the edge of the network, part is in the cloud. So combination of all of that and answering to changing environment becomes the challenge here. But UNEX will be able to readjust based on the changing environment and also reconfigure the network and reconfigure the workload across the environment. The third example I have is actually in the, we call it cognitive digital mind. This is also on the floor. You can see the demo of it actually. Here we actually think about composing the entire network based on the need that you have. The first is to understand what is needed. The second is also to translate that. So here in between we have the digital twin to capture from the sensor and from the requirement of the application what is needed, and then to negotiate with the network to see what are the possibilities that we have and compose those networking services to respond. And this is basically, in essence, creates a symbiosis between the network and the application or the environment that we are in. So, unified network system is basically a layerless system. So we are moving from network as a huge, bulky thing to networking, meaning that actually networking is a continuous act. You compose the network based on the need that you have. You have from one side application owner or device owner. From the other side you have the resource owner. In between the layer of operating system is a distributed, decentralized operating system with UNEX operator, we call, that they have all of those key properties. They are understanding the system. They can decompose and assure the intent. They can negotiate resources. They can optimally deploy themselves, and they can adapt to the changing condition. But they are also securing with the security mechanism. They are securing the data and privacy and so on. So all of those UNEX operators, they have all of those properties. They are ready to respond to the intention and the changing environment, and they compose the network as they go. With that, I like to come to summarize here. We believe that UNEX is actually evolution of the software in the network to take the network to the next level. It is about transforming the network to something that can actually play a different role, much bigger role that is playing now, and is much needed role. All of these disparate component actors, capabilities that are available but need to come together in a safe and secure way. It addresses 5 sets of capabilities and 5 sets of challenges that are going to be dominant as we move forward. It addresses with the simplicity and security in mind, and actually addresses by going to the system software level. If I have an ask from the industry, will be do not ignore the role of the software in the network. Invest on it, because the future truly depends on that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing with us.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks.
Dear Azimeh, thank you very much for this illustrating and enlightening talk. Dear colleagues, please hold your questions for this afternoon's panel. We will have the pleasure to have our keynote speakers this afternoon as panelists. So question and answers will be in the panel. Now, for sake of time, I would invite you to a short coffee break, and let's proceed with the rest of the program today. Thank you.